This type of art is going really viral on TikTok. So I found this guy here with a profile that posts these types of images. Now, they're not even videos. So if I click on one of these links and show you, it's just a slideshow of images, and the images are beautiful. I'm not taking anything away from the creator here. They're very colorful, vivid, and they seem to have like a Japanese theme. And all his content is the same. They're just like slideshows of images. And I've sorted by popular. So you can see here that this one has 2.1 million views. And this is all that he's doing, right? Different colors, very high definition. And this is something that you can replicate with AI. So this automation is split into two parts. The first part will generate the image prompt. So you can see I've got 3 AI agents here. And obviously I'll show you how to build these. And then the second part is it will generate the images using the prompts, the style, the environment, etc. It will merge all that, and then it will create the image and it will upload the image into Blatato, which is the automated platform that I'm using for this, to basically post it onto TikTok. To install this workflow, just head over to the community. I've created a classroom for AI automations and blueprints, and there's one here for the viral art AI creator. So all you have to do is download this blueprint here, go into your N8N account, click on a new workflow, click on these 3 dots here, and then import from file, and then just upload the file that you've downloaded, and it'll basically import the blueprint for you, and you're ready to go. To kick off this workflow, install the schedule trigger node. The next node is going to be an AI agent, and I've called it generate style, but let me just show you inside of here. So basically we're going to define the prompt, which is generate a visual output for the genre. And I'll explain what the genre is. And then the most important thing about an AI agent is always the system prompt. So let's just go inside of here. And then for this, I've created a variable called genre. And for this particular example, it's celestial dreamscape. So the prompt starts off with using the think tool to generate emotionally resonant anime inspired visual compositions. I'll show you what the think tool does in a sec. My visual style composer, train it in the crafting breathtaking AI generated scenery within a distinctly Japanese anime aesthetic. So again, this depends on your context, what type of images, what type of genre you're in. I'm in the celestial dreamscape genre, which is the example I showed you, which had 2.1 million views. Then give it some parameters and some context. So I've told it that I want cinematic dreamscapes into visual prompts designed to go viral on platforms like TikTok. I'm very specific that I want it for TikTok because I'm gonna ask it to use hashtags, because that's what I've seen other creators do on TikTok. So I'm just literally copying what they're doing in terms of the way they are uploading content. If there are people inside the image, I don't want to describe any of that. I don't want any reasoning. Just focus on mood, composition, natural phenomena, lighting, and magical realism. Then basically I've given it an inclusion list, right? So randomly select one dreamscape style from the list below. And then each result must include the following. Now this is just based on what I've seen, right? This is not a hard and fast rule. It's not set in stone. It's just what I've seen the creator that I showed you in the beginning of this video, that's what they're doing with their titles, right? With the captions, the titles, the styles, etc. And then this is the visual metadata that I'm including. So dimension, art profile, aspect ratio, color palette. Now these are variables that I'm including, right? If there's anything that you want to include in your compositions, then just include it as a variable. Then the style pool, this is just to give it examples, right? Now I plugged an image that was similar into ChatGPT, and I asked it to explain this visual style to me, right? Because I'm not an expert in this art. I just wanted to know what it was. So basically I asked it for 20 different examples of similar styles, right? And this is literally just an output from ChatGPT, right? But the point is that it's kind of in that style, right? In this anime Japanese aesthetic. And that's the most important thing. You want it in the style that you're trying to emulate. Then the output format, leave it unchained. I want it JSON, and I want the title, the caption, the style, dimension, and art profile. These are variables that I'm asking it to create. So because I'm asking it to create an output, we need to specify the output format when we need to toggle that on. When you run it, you're going to see these outputs, right? Because I've asked it to create these strings, which are now variables, right? So each variable has been generated by the AI agent for each of the styles. And you can see, because of that, we're going to need the output parser. So the first thing we want to do is attach an output parser. And for this, I've just created the variables. I've just copied and pasted it here into JSON. You can leave this blank. You can put insert text in here. It doesn't really matter because the AI agent is going to replace it with the text that it generates, right? Which is whispers through mist and all the other, caption, style, dimension, art profile, etc. Once that's created, the other thing as well is you need to add an OpenAI chat model. So I've created one for 4.1 mini. It's very fast. It's very affordable. Doesn't use that many tokens. And you can see here that I'm actually sharing the 2 modules, right? So I'm actually sharing the OpenAI chat module between the 3 AI agents. I'm also sharing the think module. So if I go back to the prompt, you'll see that I asked it to use the think module, right? And what that does is this is a new node that NA10 just released. And basically, it's just an extra reasoning, right? Like if you have complex workflows, something like this, you can add think of it like a brain, right? And what it does is it will do some reasoning, it will do some context. And this matters because if you go back to the original prompt, I told the AI agent to kind of go with the flow, right? Like kind of use its own thinking, its own brain, its own intelligence. I've given it some parameters, but I've also given it some kind of free reign in, like a blank canvas of what it can do in terms of the style pool, right? So you can see that here. And because of that, I've asked it to just think about it, right? Like just think about it. And it's basically just a prompt, whatever NA10 uses, right? Whatever it generates, which is uses to think about something. It will not obtain new information or change the database. So it will not, it will not change the parameters or the guidelines that you've given it. It will just work within that. And it's kind of free flow, right? Which is a cool way of doing this because you're going to be very impressed by the outputs. The next node you want is another AI agent. So now we've created a style. We want to generate the environment. So if I click inside of here, again, the source for the prompt, we're going to define it below. And for this, I've said generate 5 random images in the genre style. Right? So genre style was Celestial Dreamscape. Use the colors and environments list included, right? So now we've got the style. Now we're going to talk about the color palette and the environment that these images are going to be generated within. So then you want to require a specific output, make sure that's toggled on. Let me just go inside of here, explain it to you. So the genre is still the Celestial Dreamscape. We're going to use the think tool again. So now you're a creative AI agent trained in curating visually iconic environments inspired by Japanese animation, dreamlike nature, and celestial fantasy. Again, this is just keeping with the context of the TikTok profile that I'm trying to emulate, right? Like the environments. I've given it some context, and then I've given it a protocol for the scenes, right? Or, for each step. Important, do not describe people, emotion, or dialogue. I don't want any of that, right? Like I don't want it to explain to me the outputs if there are characters in the images, right? There might be, there might not be. I've left it completely open for the AI agent to include that, right? Then for the output, we want 5 randomly selected scenes in the following JSON format. So again, that's scene name, source, visual elements, color palette, right? We're asking it for that. And then the inclusion list, again, I'm using a think tool and I'm just letting the AI agent just go with the flow, right? And again, this is just a list from ChatGPT. So I've asked it to give me a curated list of environments that are similar to the stuff that I've seen on TikTok, right? And it's just give me a list of 20. You can put 100 in here, 50, it really doesn't matter, right? And then because we've specified an output, we're going to need a parser, an output parser. So for this one, it's this one here. And all I've done is I'm using square brackets because this is an array, right? Because we have more than one scene. We've got 5 scenes, right? So I need to put it into an array, which is just a table. That's all it means. And then the JSON here is scene name, source, visual elements, color palette. And I've just copied and pasted it 5 times because I want 5 outputs. So you can see here, I've got one object, right? Which is the output, but inside there's a location that says 0. That means it's in a table and the location is effectively 1, but the way NA10 does it, it's the location is 0. So this is the first location in the table. This is the second location. This is the third location, and this is the 4th location and the 5th location. So we've got basically 5 scenes, and we've got scene name, source, visual elements, color palette. Okay, these are all important variables that I'm going to need when I plug it into the final prompt. And again, it's going to plug into the think tool. So we're sharing the think tool here again, and we're sharing the OpenAI module, which you can just share it from the chat model and from the tools as well. And then the last AI agent is going to be the prompt. It's going to create the final prompt, right? So if I click inside of here, I'll show you what that looks like. Again, we're going to define it below, but this time we're going to do a little bit differently, right? So you are an expert cinematic prompt composer for AI image generation. Your task is to combine 2 types of input data, right? So we're going to get the prompts, the output from agent 1, which is generate style agent, and then a scene data set from generate a scene, or in fact, this is environment, right? It's because I was testing it with the images, the kind of faces, the anime faces. So we've got style, we've got generate environment, and we want the 4 variables. So scene name, source, visual element, color palette, right? Use the think tool again to construct 5 unique cinematic image prompts. Again, I'm just telling it to kind of go with the flow. Just do whatever you think is right. I don't want to micromanage you too much. Each generated prompt should have the following structure. So I've given it a structure. And again, this is based on what I've seen on TikTok, right? I'm not making this up out of kind of pulling out thin air. I'm kind of basing it on what I've seen, right? And I've given it some resolution, aspect ratio. Again, this is going to depend on what type of image language model you're going to use, right? If you're going to use something like Flux, you're going to get some amazing images, but something like Flux Pro is quite expensive, right? When you go towards the 4-end high definition images, which is what the example I showed you on TikTok is definitely doing. And if you wanted to go into production with this, you definitely want to use the best image model. For this workflow, I'm using OpenAI's image GPT, which isn't the best, but it's really affordable, right? Like it's doesn't use much tokens and it's pretty quick as well. Then I've given it some fidelity guidelines just based on outputs that I've seen. And then for the scene inputs, we want 5 dreamscapes, right? So scene 1 is scene name, source, visual elements, and color palette. And all I'm doing is literally just dragging these fields across. So for scene 1, I'm taking the scene name, which is Spirit of Starlight Lanterns. So if I go down to the output, you'll see it here, right? So scene 1 is Spirit of Starlight Lanterns. Then for the source, I'm just dragging over the source field. So this is Japanese folklore and celestial festivals. For the visual elements, I'm dragging that over, right? And for this is lantern lit path spiraling infinitely into stars, delicate glowing, etc, etc. So you get the point, right? So that's for scene 1. So that's output 0. Then for scene 2, you want to do the same for output 1. Scene 3 is output 2, and so on and so forth. You know it's worked because it's green and you can see the outputs. You can see exactly what each output should be. And if you are going to emulate something on TikTok, just make it as vivid, as dreamy, and as close to what you're seeing as possible. Be very specific in the prompts because you're going to get a better output if you're more detailed in the prompting, okay? You only have to do this once, by the way. You don't have to map it once. And then we do need to obviously require a specific output because we are asking it for that. And then the system message is this one here. So you're an expert prompt composer for AI image generation. So all I'm telling it is get the style description from agent 1. I'll create a list of environments. Let me just change this. Environments from agent 2. So the first 2 agents would have created the style and the environments. I had to change this because I was playing around with it. I was testing different types of content, so like images, landscapes, things like Blade Runner, etc, etc. I was just trying different things. Again, we're going to use the same for variables: scene name, source, visual elements, color palette. We're going to have an intro. If there is a character, you probably don't actually need this, to be honest with you. You can take this out. Let me just take this one out. And scene description, because we are just going to do the ones with the scenes. And then the output format is image prompt, cinematic prompt for character 1. That should be seen, but it doesn't matter. It's fine. And then do not include any markdown or text outside this array. Ensure each image prompt string has no line breaks. Replace this with the new line with spaces. Again, I just don't want any issues with the prompt because this is the prompt that I'm going to plug into the final prompt in image GPT, right? And so because we've got that, we then want to go back out of here and we want a structured output parser again. So this time I'm just creating image prompt for each one. And again, it's an array, which is why it's in the square brackets with a table for each image prompt, because we're going to feed these one by one into ChatGPT, and you'll see that in the next step. So you see I've got 5 outputs. It's labeled 4 because it starts off at location 0 in the table, because this is an array, right? This is an object, this is a string, and this is an array in a table. That's all it means. So it makes more sense if I show you like this. This is what it physically is stored as on NA10. Now that we have all the prompts, we need a code node because this is going to require a change in the output. Okay, so when we get the output from the AI agents, you can see here that the output has a box right next to the image, and that means that it's an object, and inside each object there's a string, right? So the image output is whatever the final AI agent has created, and effectively this is an array, right? It's just a table of items, like row. And we've got five of these because we've got 5 image prompts. We need to convert the object into a list because I need to put this prompt into ChatGPT's image AI, right, to then create the outputs. So what this code does, and this is just a code node from the node panel, I'm basically telling it using some JavaScript here to convert the image prompt into a list, right? It's just 5 items, right? As opposed to 1 object. And that's all that it means. Then the next node is now the generate image node, because we have everything that we need to generate images. This is an HTTP request node. So if you go inside of here, we're going to use the method post. This is the endpoint generations for the image GPT at OpenAI. I'm using the following fields. So we've got authorization for the header, and so make sure you toggle on headers, and then for the value it's just bearer space and then your API key. So head over to platform.openai.com. If you haven't done so, just top up some credits. You can start with $5 and grab the API key in the API dashboard. This is the key here, the SK number and letters, and it's just a string. Then we need to send some body. So whenever we send a payload, it's always JSON. So the body type is JSON, the specified body is JSON, and then we're sending this JSON code. And this is what OpenAI says that it needs. This is what it says in its API documentation. So the model is going to be GPT image 1, which is the latest model. You could put DALL-E 2, DALL-E 3 in there, but just remember that image 1 is the latest. It's going to be technically the best output, and it's going to create the best images. Then the prompt is going to be basically generate a high quality image prompt with this prompt. And then I've just put in there, and I'm dragging this over as the image prompt. Because there's a list, it's going to do all 5 of them because we've got 5 items as you can see here. So it's going to put image prompt 5 times. Then the size is this size here, which is optimized for TikTok. Quality is high. If you wanted to use less tokens, you can change this to low. If you're testing it out, that's perfectly fine. When you're happy with the output, you can just change this back to high. Moderation, low, output JPEG, background opaque, output compression 50. If you want more information about any of these values, these fields, you can go to the image API documentation at OpenAI. They've got a lot more detail in there, or just Google it. There's some more details in there. I've just gone for the default, and also the quality I want high. Then on the right hand side, you can see the prompts. This is what the prompt is going to look like. And again, we want to give it as much detail as possible, right? Because it's going to generate the best output. Then when you run it, you'll see the data here. So let's just see if this loads. It might take a bit of time because there are some big files here. And you can see if I go change to schema, it's now got this funny B64 JSON file. This is like just machine code, right? It's a base64 code. And this is what inside the computer, this is what the language model would look like. But obviously we can't do much with that. So what we need to do next is we need to convert it to image. So this is a convert to file node. And what we're doing is we're moving the base64 string to file. That's all we're telling it to do. The input is this field here. So to get the base64 JSON file, drag it over, right? And I'll do the same for all of these. And then the output file in field is just gonna be data. I've just given it the name data. And effectively it's just the name of this binary file. So if I click on view, it'll show you each of the files that I created for the example that I showed you earlier. You could do this for all of them and just make sure that you're okay. If you're not okay at this point, just run the automation again. I was testing different outputs, different prompts. That's why you're seeing different things here. And if you want more detail, obviously it's in the prompt, right? So once you have the image, what we then need to do before we upload it into Blatato, because I'm using Blatato to basically auto post it into TikTok. It's the easiest way to do it, right? Because the TikTok API isn't user friendly, right? It's quite complicated to set it up inside of edit-end. So the easiest way to do it is just use Blatato. But before we could do Blatato, we need to create a URL, right? Like an image URL. Now you can use a download tool like Google for this or Dropbox or something like that. The one I've gone for is ImageUR, which is a free solution online. It's cloud storage. And so what we could do is we've got post method. This is the URL. The endpoint is image, right? And then when you're using the headers, you want to basically select use fields below. The name is authorization. And for the value, we just need a ID that the IMG-UR will generate. And I'll show you how to set that up. And we just need a prefix of client-ID before it. You need to toggle on send body because we need to send these binary files over. And the type this time, it's not JSON because we're sending physical files over. Okay, so it's the binary file, edit-end's binary file, right? And then the input name is data because this is an image. And when you test it, you get this output, okay? And the most important thing you want is this here, the link. So to generate this, what you want to do is head over to this website. Just type in api.imgur.com/add client. You don't even need this bit here. It's because I've authorized. So just get rid of this. So all you need is this here. That's enough. Just run that. It'll ask you to sign in. I signed in with my Gmail and then it'll take you to this here. Okay, so register an application. If it doesn't work after you signed in to Gmail, just copy and paste this again and it'll take you to the screen. For the application name, you can just give it whatever you want. I've called it N10 TikTok art demo. For the authorization type, just select anonymous usage without user authorization. And then for the callback URL, you can just paste in this here, okay, which is https://localhost. And then give it an email address. So I'm gonna give it my email address here. And then just click on this, submit it, and then it'll give you a client code, like an access token, which is this client ID here. Grab this, and this is what you want to put into here, where it says client ID, right? So you just want client ID, make sure it's uppercase, -ID, space, and then paste this code here. When you do that, it will generate a link. Now that we have the link, this URL, we can then submit it to Blatato. So next one is gonna be HTTP request node. If I open this up, you'll see that it's a post method, and the URL is this one here, the base URL, but the endpoint is media. We're going to use generic credential type for the header. And so if you want to use that, just go inside of here. All you want to do is create a header, okay? And the name is Blatato-API-key. And then the value is your API key. And I'll show you how to get the API key in a second. Then you want to send the body because we want to send the information over, which is the link. So it's this one here. So the content type is JSON and we're going to specify the field below. So the field that they need is called URL and they're telling us this on their API documentation. And the value is just going to be this link here. When you run it, it will actually upload all 5 of these URLs into their cloud storage, which is this link here. Now, if you want to set up Blatato, just head over to blatato.com, go to settings and you're going to get an API key. At the bottom here, just copy the API key and that's what you put in the header auth. So now that we've done that, we want to convert to an object, because at the moment we have a URL. So the next thing we want to do is grab the URL and convert it into an object, because that's how we post it onto TikTok. Okay, so we've got another node function here. This time we're just going to get the media URLs, which is this one here, right? And we're going to output them to a field called Blatato URL. This is the one I'm defining, and then we're just basically converting it into an object. So effectively all that means is it's just one item, right? So we're telling this node to convert all this output, which is the URL, into an object, because then we can upload it all into one go. Then we want to post it as the last step into TikTok. So it's another HTTP request node. This time we're going to use the posts endpoint. Okay, the base URL stays the same. We've got the same generic credential type. This just means that you don't have to keep putting the, the bearer space or dash key, value header every time. You could just put it in once. Okay, and then we want to send the body. This time it's JSON for the body type. For the specified body is also JSON, and we need some code. And this is what Blatato is telling us in the API documentation. So for everything, this is just their kind of defined fields. Target type is obviously TikTok. We want it to be public, and we want to auto add music to this. And this is important because we have captions, right? Because we have the captions, we've got hashtags in there. TikTok will actually use some music that's relevant to it. So it'll find something that's kind of Japanese, anime, that kind of style, right? So that's very important. And then for the content, the text is just going to be the caption. So if you go back down to the first AI agent node, and the reason I created a caption field is because I want to use the caption for the auto posting. So if I look here, it says where reality blurs and dreams begin. Celestial serenity, animated dreamscape. And this is the AI agents created. I don't know if these are trending hashtags. I mean, who knows, right? But the point is that it's just automated. Then the platform is TikTok. Their variable is called media URLs. And for the media URLs, you just go back to the last node and then you just drag and drop all 5 scenes. So you can see here, this is now an array again. It's a table, right? So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It only goes up to 4 because it starts off at the location 0 on the table. And then you just drag and drop these. So we're telling them that we want basically post all these 5 images. And then for the account ID, the way you get that is if you go back to Blatato, you can connect all your accounts here. Now I've connected them all up. Just follow the on-screen instructions. It's literally you just got to sign into your accounts. If you want to sign into what's this called? Blue Sky, I think. You just connect up to your Blue Sky. You just put in your username and password. This is Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Threads. This one is TikTok, and then you've got Twitter. Okay, so I've just connected them all up just to show you. The one you want is TikTok, and then you just copy the account ID and then go back into the workflow and then paste it here. This is very important. If it doesn't have an account ID or an account that's integrated into Blatato, it's not going to work. And then when you run this, you've got a post submission ID. That means it's worked. To double check that, you just go over to publish posts inside of Blatato, and then you'll see it here. So you see where it says I posted these 3 for my Japanese art examples, and you can see that it's worked. So that's basically it. That's the automation in a nutshell. It looks complicated, but it's really not. The most complicated thing that visually is just we're sharing these nodes here, and it just makes it easier when you're building large, more complicated automations. And like I said, if you want the easy route, just head over to my Skool community. The link is below this video. Go ahead, go into classrooms, which is this here. Go to AI blueprints and find the visual art AI creator. Once this video is complete, I'll edit it. I'll also add this video into here. But you can see we've got a ton of automations, and you've got the documentation and the video tutorials to help you with that as well. So if you like this video, please consider giving me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so, turn your notifications on, and I'll see you next time. Have a great day.